Oscar was a quiet, thoughtful young boy who believed strongly in one thing: the future should be built slowly and honestly. From a very young age, he learned to save money, while other boys spent their pocket money on games, snacks, and outings. Oscar put coins into a small metal box hidden under his bed. Every note, every coin represented hope for education, independence, and a life better than the one he saw at home. Oscar's father, Richard, was a careless man. He worked irregular jobs, spent most of his earnings on his friends, gambling, and unnecessary luxuries. He mocked Oscar's habit of saving money. "Money is meant to be spent," Richard often said with a laugh. Oscar would stay silent. He had learned that arguing only brought anger. Oscar's mother had passed away when he was very young. Since then, the house felt empty, filled more with shouting than love. Oscar grew up faster than other children. He cooked his own meals, washed his clothes, and studied late at night under a dim bulb, dreaming of becoming an engineer one day. By the time Oscar turned 18, he had saved a good amount of money, enough to support his college admission and basic expenses for at least a year. He kept detailed notes of his savings, carefully written in an old notebook. One evening, his father entered Oscar's room, unusually calm. "Oscar," Richard said softly, "I need to talk to you." Oscar felt uneasy. His father never spoke gently unless he wanted something. "I'm in a little trouble," Richard continued. "Just temporary. I need some money. I'll return it soon, I promise." Oscar hesitated. "How much?" "All of it," Richard replied without shame. "You're young. You can earn again. I'm your father." Oscar's heart pounded. "Father, this money is for my studies." Richard's expression changed instantly. His voice turned cold. "Do you think you're better than me? I raised you. That money is mine too." Before Oscar could react, Richard searched the room and found the metal box. He opened it, his eyes shining not with pride, but greed. He also found the notebook. Oscar tried to stop him. "Please, don't," but Richard shoved him aside and walked out, leaving Oscar on the floor. His dreams shattered. That night, Oscar didn't cry loudly. He stared at the ceiling, feeling a deep pain not because of the money alone, but because the one person who should have protected him had betrayed him. Days passed. Oscar soon realized the truth: his father had no intention of returning the money. He spent it on gambling and debts. When Oscar asked again, Richard slapped him. "Be grateful you have a roof over your head," he shouted. Something inside Oscar broke. He stopped asking. He stopped trusting, but he didn't stop planning. Oscar took a small part-time job at a local repair shop. The owner noticed Oscar's intelligence and discipline. He learned quickly. Electronics, machines, and systems fascinated him. Slowly, Oscar began saving again. But this time, not just money. He saved patience. He saved knowledge. He saved silence. Late at night, Oscar would look at his empty box and whisper to himself, "One day, you will regret this." Not out of hatred, but out of justice. This was only the beginning. Life became heavier for Oscar after that night. His father's betrayal had changed everything. The house that once felt merely cold now felt like a prison. Richard behaved as if nothing wrong had happened, spending his days lazily while Oscar worked, studied, and suffered in silence. Oscar woke up before sunrise every day. He worked at the repair shop, cleaned machines, fixed wires, and listened carefully to the technicians. The shop owner, Mr. Harold, noticed something different in him. "You learn faster than anyone I've seen," Harold said one evening. "Why don't you go to college?" Oscar smiled sadly. "I will. Someday." At night, Oscar studied using free online resources. He borrowed books from a local library and practiced on broken electronics the shop discarded. He was tired physically and emotionally, but he refused to break. Meanwhile, Richard's situation worsened. Debts piled up. Creditors came to the house, shouting and threatening. Each time, Richard blamed Oscar. "If you earned more, I wouldn't be in this mess," he would shout. Oscar stayed silent. But inside, he made a decision. He would never depend on his father again. Months later, Mr. Harold offered Oscar a full-time position with better pay. It was the first time in years someone trusted him. With that money, Oscar opened a secret bank account, one his father knew nothing about. Oscar didn't just save money this time. He invested it. He learned about small businesses, online freelancing, and digital repair services. Slowly, he started fixing gadgets for people after work phones, laptops, tablets. Word spread quickly. Oscar's reputation grew out at home. Richard mocked him. "You think you're smart now?" He laughed. "You're still nothing." Oscar looked at him calmly. "Time will tell." One night, Oscar overheard a phone call. Richard was planning to take a loan using Oscar's name and documents. That was the moment Oscar realized something important. If he didn't act soon, his future would be destroyed completely. The next morning, Oscar went to the bank and secured his identity documents. He also spoke to a legal aid office, quietly learning his rights. For the first time, Oscar understood that revenge didn't need violence, it needed intelligence. Weeks later, Oscar received an email that changed everything. He had been selected for a fully funded technical scholarship abroad. Based on his online certifications and work experience, tuition, housing, and living expenses all covered. Oscar stared at the screen, hands shaking. This was his escape. This was his answer. When Richard found out, he exploded. You can't leave, he shouted. Who will support me? Oscar looked at him not with anger, but with calm strength. You drained my future, Oscar said softly. Now I will build one without you. For the first time, Richard had no reply. Oscar packed his bags that night. As he stepped out of the house, he didn't feel joy or hatred. He felt freedom, but his story wasn't finished yet. Far away, Oscar was about to become something his father never expected, powerful enough to make the past return with consequences. Life abroad transformed Oscar in ways he had never imagined. The first few months were difficult: new country, new culture, and complete independence. But hardship was nothing new to him. What was new was respect. At the institute, Oscar's professors quickly recognized his talent. He wasn't just intelligent, he was disciplined, focused, and creative. While others complained about workload, Oscar worked late nights, driven by a hunger that came from loss and betrayal. Within 2 years, Oscar graduated with top honors. He was offered a position at a leading technology firm even before graduation. His salary was more than his father had earned in years. Oscar didn't rush to show off. He remembered every insult, every slap, every night he slept hungry while his father wasted money. But revenge, he believed, should be slow and meaningful. Oscar started sending his father a small amount of money every month, just enough to survive. Richard thought it was guilt. He finally understood who raised him. Richard bragged to others, but Oscar had a plan. Through contacts, Oscar quietly learned the truth. Richard had taken loans under fake promises, and unpaid debts were catching up to him. Creditors were circling again. His reputation in the town was ruined. Oscar then made a bold move. Using a legal firm, Oscar bought his childhood house not directly, but through a third party after the bank seized it for unpaid loans. Richard never knew who the buyer was. One day, Richard received an eviction notice. He was furious. I'll find the person who did this, he screamed. That evening, Oscar returned home for the first time in years. Richard opened the door and froze. You, he whispered. Oscar stepped inside calmly. Yes, I came to tell you something. Richard shouted. Did you come to laugh at me? No, Oscar replied. I came to tell you the truth. Oscar handed him the documents. Richard's hands trembled as he read them. You bought the house, Richard stammered. Yes, Oscar said. Legally? With money I earned. The same future you destroyed. Richard collapsed into a chair. His pride shattered. Oscar looked at him firmly. I won't throw you out like you threw me out. You can stay as a tenant. Richard's face burned with shame. For years, Oscar continued, you treated me like nothing. Now you will live with the knowledge that everything you lost was because you underestimated me. Tears rolled down Richard's face, not of regret, but of humiliation. Oscar didn't raise his voice. He didn't insult him. That silence was more painful than any slap. As Oscar left the house that night, he felt no joy, only closure. But destiny had one final lesson left. After that night, Richard's life changed completely. The man who once ruled the house with anger now lived quietly in a single room, paying rent to his own son. Neighbors whispered, relatives avoided him. The respect he once demanded was gone. Oscar, meanwhile, returned abroad and continued to rise. He was promoted quickly, not because of luck, but because of character. He invested wisely, started a small tech consultancy, and soon became financially independent beyond survival. But despite his success, Oscar felt a weight he couldn't ignore. Revenge had given him justice but not peace. Months later, Oscar received a call from a neighbor back home. Richard had fallen ill. Years of stress, poor habits, and loneliness had weakened him. He was hospitalized, with no one to care for him. Oscar sat silently after the call. Memories flooded back, not just of pain, but of childhood moments when his father had once smiled, once tried, even if briefly. Oscar returned home. He found Richard weak, smaller than he remembered. When Richard saw Oscar, he turned his face away, ashamed. I don't deserve your help, Richard said hoarsely. Oscar sat beside him. No, he replied calmly, but I deserve peace. Oscar arranged medical care, paid the bills, and ensured his father was treated with dignity but not control. He set clear boundaries. Richard would live independently, supported but never dominant again. One evening, Richard finally broke down. I destroyed your future because I was afraid, he cried. Afraid you would become greater than me. Oscar listened quietly. You did hurt me, Oscar said, but you also taught me something. What? Richard asked. How to survive without love. Oscar didn't forgive easily, but he let go of hatred. That was his final victory. Years later, Oscar established a foundation to support students who were denied education by their families. Every scholarship carried a simple message. Your future belongs to you. Oscar stood at the opening ceremony and smiled, not because of revenge, but because he had transformed pain into purpose. Richard watched from afar, knowing the truth at last. The money he stole had cost him his son's trust, his dignity, and his place in Oscar's life. And that was a loss no amount of money could repay.